Tammi Terrell was born Thomasina Montgomery in North Philly, a racially mixed but tough section of Philadelphia, on April 29, 1945. Her parents, a former actress who never lost her love for the stage, and a local ward leader who owned a successful barbershop, were expecting a boy and had settled on the name Tommy. From the start, little Thomasina made sure that everyone was happy to have her around.
She would run up and down our back drive, and she would get a cart and stand up on the cart and entertain people. And she was just such a lively, vivacious, charismatic little kid.
Her mom was clinically depressed and spent months at a time in a sanatorium receiving treatment, including electroshock. And Tommy herself suffered from severe headaches.
I remember one day, and she says, I got a headache. And I looked at her, and I said, yeah, I can see. She had a vein under her eye that would stand out. And they gave her glasses, but nobody thought to x-ray her head or anything.
When Tommy was 11, she experienced something that she couldn't brush aside. She was raped by 3 older boys on her way home from a neighborhood club.
Ay, ay, ay. Only 11 and already it's going this way? This isn't good, guys.
Certain aspects of Tammy's personality kind of metamorphosized into extremes.
For months, Tommy was sullen and withdrawn. When she revived, she was different. Wilder, rebellious, and interested in boys. All of a sudden, Tommy hated her name. She changed it to Tammy, and she threw herself more deeply than ever into her dream of becoming a star, performing in talent shows all over Philadelphia.
As a kid, when you're dealing with situations that you don't quite understand, you find all kinds of ways for an out. Hers was her music.
It wasn't long before Tammy's talent was recognized. In 1960, Scepter Records, riding high with artists like Dionne Warwick and the Shirelles, signed Tammi Montgomery to a recording contract.
Pause. Scandal time. So around now, Tammy is probably about 13, 14, 15, somewhere around that area. And, she was raped at 11. So here's a detail that you guys need to understand. So Tammy, you know how some rape victims, once they're raped, their clothes off, they don't want to be married, they never want to touch or look at a man again? And then you have the other kind that are open to all men, like legs wide open. Well, that's the kind that Tammy was. Even her sister admitted that she was quite promiscuous during this time period. Okay, roll the footage.
If you see Bill.
3 months later, she cut her first record, a torchy ballad called If You See Bill.
He said, wow, this kid sounds like she's 20, 21 years old, singing about love and breakups.
If you see Bill, I'm the one that taught him how. She became a real woman to me. She was no longer a little girl.
Tammy recorded numerous songs for Scepter, and on weekends and school breaks, she toured with other Scepter stars, like Chuck Jackson and Tommy Hunt. She had a road romance with the 27-year-old Hunt, and back in Philly, she was extremely popular with the guys.
She was busy, and she was well developed, And I think a lot of times when they talk about her being so promiscuous, I think she wanted to be liked more than anything else and accepted,
I thought at that time she was kind of wild. For me, anyway. There's so much excitement out there, and there's money, and she's in the lights. And so she just had a ball.
She responded like a much older person. As I sit down and think about it now, though, I can see why. She was living fast because she didn't have long to live.
By 1962, 17-year-old Tammy Montgomery had a record deal, famous boyfriends, and she was performing nonstop. That summer, Steve Gibson and the Red Caps, an all-star R&B group that had been together since the 1930s, hired her to front their shows in Wildwood, New Jersey. The grueling gig turned Tammy into a pro. She did 5 sets a night, 6 days a week.
There were about 2 or 3 other singers besides her at the same time, but Tammy was the star. She's the one that everybody waited for.
Steve Gibson was good, but Tammy and her mom had bigger things in mind. Mrs. Montgomery drove to Atlantic City and convinced none other than James Brown to come to Wildwood and catch one of Tammy's shows. He did, and promptly asked her to join his review.
Pause. Scandal time. Honey, Tammi Terrell was only 16 when she got with James Brown, and he was in his 30s, and their relationship was a disaster. First off, he lied to her mother about sleeping around with her. Second off, he had her singing with him, with his group, with his band. And one day they were doing a show and he was singing and he looked and he didn't see Tammy waiting in the wings watching him. Girl, when he got off that stage, he whipped her behind all off stage, baby. They said he even beat her down some stairs. And one person, I don't know if I really believe this person. It seems like this person added too much in. But they claimed that he hit her in the head with a hammer. I don't know, though.
Tammi Terrell to the James Brown Review was as important as my fingers are to my hand. She complimented James Brown's rawness with her sexiness.
For 7 months, Tammy toured with Mr. Dynamite. Still in high school, she took her homework on the road and even found time to record a new single. This one on James Brown's Try Me label. I Cried may have expressed the way Tammy, now 17, was feeling about her newest flame, James Brown.
She had told me that James used to hit her regularly in the head, among other places.
He beat her up and she had to end up getting her teeth capped. I remember her telling me, but I didn't want to hear it.
So many days gone by. So many days gone by. But oh.
The beatings and the breakup gave Tammy second thoughts about a music biz career. In 1963, she enrolled in the pre-med program at the University of Pennsylvania on a full scholarship. For 2 years, she studied math, science, psychology, and French. Weeks later, Motown Records founder Berry Gordy saw her and Butler perform at a nightclub in Detroit. He offered her a record deal the next day. Tammy decided to put school on hold. She signed with Motown Records on April 29th, 1965. Her 20th birthday. With her own single on the charts, Tammy hit the road as part of the Motown Review and got close with Temptation's ultra-smooth lead singer, David Ruffin.
Pause. Scandal time. So at this time, Tammi Terrell has now joined with Motown at a time period when there was a so-called pretty much god at Motown. And everybody knows who that was. But if you don't know, that was David Ruffin. So, honey, you know Miss Tammy had to get her a piece of that, baby. So her and David started dating. But the thing of it was, David was married. Roll the footage.
67, Marvin Gaye, Motown's debonair leading man, needed a partner to help him record a new round of duets. Any volunteers? Berry Gordy chose Tammi Terrell, despite her lack of fame, or maybe because of it.
That was the idea. Let's launch her with Marvin Gaye, and then she has that sure shot way of being with an established artist and the possibility of a hit.
Tammy has gotten with Marvin Gaye, and they are creating the hits. I mean, hit after hit after hit. You have All I Need to Get By. You have Heaven Must Have Sent You From Above. You have Ain't No Mountain High Enough. They were getting the hits. But also someone else was getting a hit in, and that was David Ruffin, and he was hitting Tammi Terrell. It got really, really, really bad when one day he was fussing at her outside. He had gotten off his motorcycle. He took his motorcycle helmet and hit her on the side of the face. Tammy finally called it quits.
Ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. Ain't nothing like the real thing. No, no.
On their first records together, Marvin Gaye and Tammi Terrell had recorded their voices separately. But now, for their third single as a duet, they literally sang together from the same mic, and the result was a masterpiece. Marvin couldn't help but notice the headaches that sometimes left Tammy gasping for breath. Just 2 weeks after recording Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing, Tammy and Marvin were performing at a small college in Virginia. They were in the middle of Your Precious Love.
Tammy just collapsed in Marvin's arm because he was saying what holding her. And I guess this one particular time, the pain was so unbearable that she just blacked out.
Marvin canceled the tour and brought Tammy back to Detroit. She flew to Philly, where doctors put her through a battery of tests.
Her mouth was twisted and her eyes were disoriented. We assumed that she had a stroke, but it turned out to be a brain tumor.
She said to me, she said, Grace, I don't want to die. And I said, Tommy, you're not going to die. You're going to be all right. You're going to get well.
She had realized that this was near the end. It was the only thing that was important to me, was to try to keep her happy, knowing what was coming. And I was hoping that it didn't show through, that she knew I knew.
Tammi Terrell underwent her 8th and final surgery on January 21st. This one simply to provide relief from desperate pain. She lingered for 2 months, then fell into a coma and died on March 16th, 1970.
Tammi Terrell was only 24 years old when she died. She faced so much scandal in her short life that it really is very tragic. Thank you guys for tuning in. Go ahead and subscribe so you can hear more scandals and more Hollywood stories. This is Ashley Says So, and I am Ashley. Goodbye.